Okay, so that's simple. Then we added in a piece where we know there's so many other experiences going on. And mostly we're giving, I would say, a pretty strong emphasis on the breath, not like clinging and only breath, but a pretty good emphasis to let that be in the foreground of our awareness and letting everything else be in the background. And then I added in a short instruction yesterday of what do we do during the times when other experiences, thoughts, emotions, feelings, whatever, body sensations, sounds, not so easy for them to be in the background. They're really getting stronger, or there's just a feeling that there's something here that just wants to come forward. You just feel it out the best you can. Or you just decide, you just choose, I want to. And so what do we do then? We don't want to fight against ourselves. So then we need to allow those to come into the practice. And one way to do that is, instead of the breath being the primary object, just during this time, we switch and we put our attention on whatever the other thing is. It could be like a pain in the body. Or if you're warm or cold, it might be that. It could be sadness or anything that comes up like that. Could be our mind spinning out about something. I didn't really mention that about thoughts. My recommendation, you find your own way. My recommendation is don't try to notice thoughts. Just this, if you want to try, see how it goes. But when the samadhi's strong, it's different. But you notice just the fact that there is this churning of the mind going. That's enough just to notice that. And then we can just be with that. Or sometimes what's fueling that? We might want to just feel underneath it. Oh, there's some worry that's fueling that. We hang out with the worry. I didn't go into a lot of detail of all the different ways that we might explore and work with. And I'm happy to talk one-on-one, but just we know that we can open up to other experience if needed. And then when it's no longer interesting or it's settled out, we're able to be back with the breath again, or maybe we just need a break or whatever. We always come back to the primary object when we're ready. And how much time for one or the other, it's not a right or wrong. So we just follow the natural flow of what's coming up in our practice, and we let that inform us. Right? And if we said, sometimes there's a thing called mindfulness with breathing that some people might find useful, where you could actually still let the breath come in with you to be with maybe this pain in the body or this anger or whatever it is. And then you can play with it a little bit. But what does it feel like to kind of breathe with it or breathe into it? And it's hard to describe, but if that works for you, you'll be able to feel your way for that. Or you just forget that and just be with the other thing. So that's what we were just kind of review from yesterday. So this morning and continuing tomorrow, I want to bring in I want to offer some instructions that maybe, I'm guessing, we'll be getting ahead of what's going on for a lot of us. I want to start talking about what happens because for everyone, if you stay with your object, whatever you're doing, at some point, you'll start to have, some of you already know this, will have experiences of, what is this thing everybody's talking about where you're deepening in the meditation? What does that mean? What's the feeling of it, right? Where we say the concentration, this word is samadhi, we'll talk this afternoon, gets strong, starts to happen. And what do we do with that? How do we work with that there? So I'm going to start to talk about that this morning, add that in. And it's really, really important that for many of us, just this is, we've got a lot of practice, a whole day of practice, that's a lot. And a lot can happen in these 3 days, no question about it. Probably for a lot of people, you may be looking forward, well, that sounds good when this happens. That'll be nice, but it's not happening for me yet. I'm still just working with whatever. And probably, I'm guessing, most people, that is probably still what's happening. So I want you to hear what I'm going to say this morning in the instruction. It's not complicated. Have heard it, and then just let it go and come back to what's actually going on for you. But it's not complicated. You don't have to try to remember it. It'll be there when the time's right. But because we've got 3 days, if we were here for a lot longer, I wouldn't even start this for a few more days, okay? But just because I want to get it into the retreat. So I hope that will work for you. So at some point, this word samadhi, or you want to say concentration, this deepening will start to happen, and you will know it because you're having some experience. You won't have to wonder, is anything happen? It will be clear. And let me name a few of the kinds of, it's a big world and quite diverse on how it manifests for different people. So I'm going to name a few of the common kind of experiences that will start to happen. And these are the things that over the course of your meditation strengthen and grow. So at some point, you'll feel that you'll just have a feeling of, I'm a little calmer, more still. You'll just feel yourself kind of deeper in. It's like, what do you mean? But it'll just be clear, like I come onto the retreat in whatever daily life consciousness is, and I feel like I'm more steady, quiet, calmer, peaceful. It can be like that. And it's more than just doing a little relaxation. You'll really feel a strong sense. Some people can feel, it can start to feel very pleasant, or just a little or a lot, where you feel some people feel it in the body, some just pleasant feelings start to come of being, the stillness can just feel really good. Sometimes it's not in the body, maybe it's mental, wherever it's located, but there's just this pleasant feeling. You will hear people even talk about bliss. Well, that's a loaded word with a lot of connotations, but it can be strong and actually at some point get just very strongly pleasant. We can feel a sense of it being expanded. And I've had times on retreats where my body felt so expanded, and I knew my body hadn't actually physically expanded, but it was so strong, I actually had to open my eyes to make sure my body hadn't gotten like 10 feet across. It's like, nope, it's still normal. But I closed my eyes, that was the feeling. So it can be like that. Some people start to see some lights, either just a general kind of field of a light or different kind of lights. That can happen. I don't think it happens to most people, but for some of you it will. Some people can start to hear some sounds come that can be very celestial sounds or something like that. They can be kind of pleasant and different ways. So probably most people not, but that can happen. But I think for most people, the first experience will be just not only it's hard to say, I'm just using this word, but you'll have to feel it like I'm just deeper in. Oh, I know what he's talking about. This is it. A stillness, a calmness that's palpable and kind of strong. Maybe you've never even experienced it like that before, and it's good, right? So, and you'll notice that your mind is not wandering off as much as it used to. It can still wander until you get to very, very deep states of samadhi. You can get to places where the mind can never, it's just there. Some of these are called, somebody left a note about, I'll say later, about what's absorption. They call it, you're so deeply connected in, your mind's not going anywhere. But the stronger this concentration gets, the more and more, but you can still wobble off and go. And you don't have to put so much effort into staying present, because this being concentrated is doing a lot of the work for you, because you just are more present without having to do much about it. So some kind of stillness, calmness, openness, probably is going to feel some kind of pleasantness associated with it. You're just going to feel like, I like this. Something like that will start to happen. So, and again, I know usually it takes a few days, so probably, I know some of you it came into the retreat, depending on if you came from another retreat or if you were your daily life, that is happening. But don't worry if, that's not happening, because probably, most people, I just want to make sure you don't get into like this judging your practice, because most people probably it's not happening yet. But whether it's today, tomorrow, on this retreat sometime, if you stay with the practice, everyone will start to have these experiences. So what do we do when that happens? As with everything, there's no single right way. So I'm just going to offer a few things, and then you'll feel your way with it. One, mostly, just stay with your breath, like you have been. But you'll just notice that the samadhi experiences are there in your awareness. You just know it. So they'll be present. You don't have to look for it. But mostly you're giving, for today, I'm going to change the instruction tomorrow a little bit. For today, you just stay with your breathing like you have been. But all the other samadhi will be there. Sometimes on its own, it's the opposite. The samadhi experiences kind of come into the foreground of your awareness more strongly than the breath. And it feels like it's more wanting to be like the object itself, the calm, the expansiveness, excuse me, the peace, the lights, the bliss, whatever it is. For shorthand, I'll just call it the samadhi. Then we don't say, what am I supposed to do? No, you let your experience lead you. Remember I said the other day, part of this is we start to deepen in and we start to connect with our own inner, whatever you want to call it, our inner knowing, our inner teacher, our inner guidance, our inner truth. And then we let it show us the way. Here's your first chance to start to play with that. When it starts to pull, and if on its own, it doesn't have to, you might just stay with your breath, but if it changes and say, I want to actually more be with that, follow it. This is it leading you, showing you the way it wants to go. And so what you're doing is you're following the natural blossoming or the natural unfolding as it wants to present itself to you. Okay. So those are two different flavors. Got to stay with the breath, concentration's there, more with the concentration. And actually when that happens, you'll still be able to feel the breath if you want to too. And so you also have it, you don't have to let it naturally present itself. You can choose to say, well, you know what, I'm going to choose to direct more toward the samadhi side or toward the breath. And you can play with it a little bit. Don't stir yourself up too much, but you'll feel if you want to do that. So there's just different ways because you're experimenting to get to know all of these different ways of connecting, and then you'll sort of settle in. And sometimes the samadhi and the breath will feel kind of equal in your awareness. That's okay too, right? So again, it's not supposed to be complicated. We just want to name that these things can start to happen. One last thing about it, and then we'll go into the silence. You will also notice that there's many benefits that or powers that come from the deepening of the samadhi. we'll talk about later about insights and awakening and liberation and all this stuff that can come. One of the things also is you'll see for yourself, it actually helps draw us into the meditation more. We all know how it can be when, say, your mind's not concentrated and it's hard to sit and you're dealing with your crazy mind and your body, and it can be like maybe harder. I mean, we do it, we just show up and do our best, but it's like harder, right? Sometimes it can feel that way, right? As the samadhi strengthens, that can flip around, and at least some of the time it makes it easier, and we're actually wanting to stay with it more. You might want to sit longer because first of all, it just feels good and it's pleasant. That's all right. Actually, that has a benefit because that pleasantness, we want to actually go with it because it's helping us connect. This word absorption, it's helping us draw us in because we kind of our attention wants to go more into the pleasant. If we get out of balance, then we're craving and chasing after it, and probably everyone will do that. And that's all right, because you'll learn through your suffering when you don't get what you want. And people are smiling. I wasn't really trying to make a joke. It's part of what happens, because I don't know anyone because these meditative states, they feel great. Of course we want more of them, right? That's fine. The Buddha said, I could pull the quotes up if I need to, it's clearly attributed to the Buddha. He said, people will sometimes say, oh, well, you're going to get attached, and that was not the Buddha. He said the bliss of concentration, the pleasantness of concentration, all the joy of concentration should not be avoided, should not be feared. He said, I'm using more modern language, but absolutely go for it. So that's what we're doing here. We are going for it. However, we don't want to make it an object of, we want to use it in a wholesome way. Right? That's kind of the idea. We'll discuss that more later. Right? So having said all of that, you can let all that go. And just to remind you that, because I just sort of dangle a little carrot out there, like keep at it, because you're going to get, these pleasant experiences come. That is true. And even when you're in stronger concentration, you will learn and see for yourself, if you've never been through it before, really underneath all of that, the most important thing is just what is actually happening in the present moment. I know I'm repeating this, but this needs to be said like continuously for all of us. This is what's important, not whether you have or don't have concentration. It's how we work skillfully with whatever's happening. And if we can keep that in mind, then we don't crave after these wholesome states. We just cultivate them, well, from a wholesome perspective, to use them and support us. And it becomes more than just craving after pleasure, right? So anyway, that's enough on that. And you can see that those instructions are not complicated, what I said. So if you just let it go out of your mind, be sort of with what's happening for you now. When those things come, you'll know what to do. It's not hard. So we're going to move into the silence. Last thing I'll say is just another reminder of please just do the best you can around bringing in ease and relaxation. If your body hurts, I don't know if I've said this to the group, it's fine to stand up quietly, do standing meditation. Just take care of yourself. Just want to offer a few more comments, and then we'll have time if there are any questions. Please, as we're here, if you need to stand up, move your body around, please make yourself comfortable in any way. When this samadhi begins to blossom, you'll probably find that in the beginning, and actually it could be for a long time, that there'll be maybe a particular time of day that tends to be your, we'll call it your best sit time of day. And whenever that is, and it might happen just then once or maybe a couple of times, and then maybe the rest of the day not, but that's pretty normal. And then this kind of grows and expands over time. So just know that you might start getting little hints just once in a while here, and that's kind of how it can be, but it might be differently. During the times, again, I realize this may be getting ahead for some of you, but when your body's holding up okay, you're not in too much pain and your body's doing okay, and the samadhi is, your mind's clear in a good place, regardless of the samadhi, your mind's in a clear, good place. I encourage you now to start peeling away or deviating from the schedule, if you like, and keep sitting longer during those times. However, what that is for you, it might be a few minutes, it might longer. Once your body kind of, is had enough, don't get into too much pain or whatever, or you'll just kind of feel the, you'll sort of lift out of the samadhi, or your mind's kind of done, whatever, and then stop. Go walk, do the mindful movement, yoga, whatever you do. Do as much walking as you want, but once the samadhi starts coming, as much walking as you need to give your body what it needs and to rebalance your energy, whatever that is, just make your best assessment and then get on back to the sits. So you may end up emphasizing, the percentage of sitting more. And I mentioned yesterday, for those of you who are the walkers, you flip it. If the samadhi starts happening really for you in the walking, then do the same thing, but as you emphasize on the walking side, and still come into the sits too, but you get the idea, right? Okay. Just a couple things, and then I'll open it up if there's any questions. There were just a few notes. So I apologize. I couldn't read all the writing here. I tend to have sloppy writing too, so don't feel I'm not disparaging anyone's writing. But the question is about this came yesterday about hand positions, and someone's just asking what that's about. And I'll just say there's maybe a couple of comments on it. One, when we fold our hands like this, it's a cultural thing. So you may or may not relate to it. It's just kind of, sometimes it can feel like an honoring or respect, like I bow to you or bow to a situation. So it's just, some people find it quite lovely. Other people don't relate to it. So you just find your own relationship. Some of the other movements, which I don't know if, just in case you've seen this, there are things called mudras, hand mudras. And so, for example, you'll see images, it's more in the Mahayana, but like I don't know if you can see it on, like, it's like that. And the Buddhists are kind of like images like this, and images where you can hold your hand like this on your knees. You'll see people doing some of these. So those are I'm not an expert on it, but I know some. The idea is that they have meaning and they might represent different qualities, but also the idea is that they can channel energies in certain ways. Is the idea. I used to practice for years. I started out, when I first started in 1970, I was in more of a Hindu-oriented yoga tradition. I lived in an ashram for a few years, and I moved in the Buddhist world kind of in the mid-70s. And so then you would do a lot of stuff like this. And so I used to sit with, you see for yourself if it's something that you like to do, you've been taught, it feels right. Maybe you do feel energies. I've never felt anything with any of that stuff. So, and everything that you're supposed to get from doing this, you're going to get it from the samadhi anyway. So if it's another thing, you'll see for yourself if this is, you like it, or if it does something. definitely do it. If not, forget about it. That's really it. Okay. Yeah. So any questions this morning? Yes, please.
How easy is it for you to access the state of samadhi?
Me personally? Oh.
Hello.
Just asked how easy it is for Richard to get into the state of samadhi.
It's a perfectly fine question. Sorry, I'm hesitating. I don't mean to be weird about it. People can get a little funny about talking about their own experiences, and it can be, people can get comparing mind and everything. So I'm going to answer you because you asked. So first, I just want to say I consider myself to be of average or less than average natural ability. There are some people I'm going to get to who are, I call them the gifted concentrators. There are people who, I mean, just from the way in the beginning, their just minds go way deep. By the way, everybody says, "Oh man, I wish I was one of them." They got their problems too, because actually, this is an important point. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but I got to preface because I got really good samadhi. Okay, I've been doing it a long time, and I still have a daily practice. I don't know what would happen if I stopped meditating. I just haven't done the experiment about that. So I've done a lot of retreats. I don't do so much retreats anymore. For me, you get to a place where there's no difference between retreat and daily life. If that's a real thing, it's not like, oh my God, lots of people experience that. So I just thought, well, what's the point of going? Because because it can kind of feel like those of you who've done a lot of retreat, and what can happen is you can, whether you do it this week, this 3 days, or you do longer retreats, whatever, you get to a place where you're just in, some of you are nodding your heads, you're just in this place of this just open awareness and presence, and the samadhi just carries through in your day without doing anything, and you're just in it, and it carries through. Well, that can carry through into daily life too, just by, it's just time and experience and practice, right? It's not that big of a deal. So it can be kind of like that. Right. And it can even get to the place where you don't have to there's no dropping in, like you just close your eyes and you don't even do a breath. It's just there. And just going, well, that's kind of cool. And that's kind of nice, right? So all of these things are available for people. It just happens. And then there's more that happens kind of even beyond the samadhi stuff where people have so many experiences. Like people can feel like they're kind of emptied out. Well, what the heck's that? But it's hard to describe. And then after that, I can even feel like you get filled up with. It's sort of like I'm going off a little here, but so I was an amateur ham radio operator. I don't know if any of you, and I still have my license. I don't. My son and I, we have a little station, and if you know anything about being on radios, there's this thing called. Sometimes you get on the air and there's a lot of atmospheric static and you just can't hear the signals. They say the band is noisy. You just hear all this shh kind of sound. But then there's times when that quiets out and then signals that were always there, but they were covered over by the noise, just are so clear. Or it's sort of like you can't see the stars because the sun's so bright, right? But when the sun goes down, they just emerge. So when a lot of the noise of our minds quiet, we kind of, whatever emptied out means, that's a weird word, I guess, but something else kind of can fill in. This could be like something nice, right? Good. So anyway, it can be like that. So these are the kind of things that just happen. So yeah, my meditations are good, because but it's like anything. I just keep it up. I've done it. And I have to say, I've just felt so much. There's so many people I've met. It just happens all the time where something's going on in someone's life and the person will say, I'm dealing with this, but thank goodness for the practice. What would I do without the practice? I really see the benefit of that. And so I also have found that I've just felt like I'm appreciative of what comes. That for all of us, as we try to cultivate more good qualities, learn to steady our minds more. And, it carries through and it can really, we can become just profoundly transformed. And we're also still just the same. I mean, that's the funny thing is like, I feel like this practice utterly transformed me. And sometimes I feel like I'm just as foolish as it's sort of both. It's kind of hard to, you're still just yourself, right? So anyway, I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to answer. Uh, people don't like to talk about it, but I don't know. It's like you asked me, and I didn't get too specific, but I'm having good sets up here. It's like I'm having it's nice, and you know, yeah. Yes, please.
So you talked about continuity of practice and you talked about different people doing different types of practices and having different anchors. How important, especially in a daily practice, like after the retreat, how important is it to stay with the same anchor? Or is it okay to say, oh, today I'm going to do open awareness and tomorrow I'm going to focus on the breath?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you mean in daily life as you move about, or you talk about during your formal sitting times?
During the formal sitting
Right.
times.
So this is an interesting thing because it's another one of these things we have to kind of find our way, but I'll give just a few thoughts about it. So so I've always had a primary practice, even from the beginning when I started way back. Just I knew breath. That's just how it was for me. My breath, and that's been my practice, mindfulness of breathing. And so it was just clear that was my thing. So I'm one of those people. I've tried other things, but there are other people. I know some of you have shared here where even within one sit, they may say, I'll start with, I'll just whatever. Maybe I'll do some loving kindness, just reflections of just get my mind. Then maybe I'll do a body scan for a while. And when I'm settled in, then I'll move to my breath, or just many different, or they'll do some chanting for a while or mantra for a while. And then, so there are people who find they actually have kind of a little routine where they go from, and they find that works for them. So even within one sit, for some people, they know that works. And it's not jumping around. It's really that helps them. And then they know what deepens. So we want to find what helps us really deepen into the practice. So if we're jumping around too much, then we never put enough onto one thing. Anyway, so you have to feel your way. It's an interesting thing. So you'll know of these you got to kind of feel it out. There's not a right or the thing is, there's just not a right or wrong for any of this. I know I'm saying that over and over, but really, but let me just add this. If we're clear about what we're trying to aim for in our practice, then that can inform. So for example, if you just said, I want to deepen on the samadhi side, the concentration side of my practice, then you may choose to sort of narrow in the things you're doing more, because some of these kind of practices that are great for enlightenment, for liberation, but they may not necessarily bring a deeper samadhi, for example. And then you may, like, let me just use the term open awareness, which I know some of, and that's more, instead of, it's a lot of flavors, right? What I'm going to say won't be how it is for all of you, but instead of directing my attention, I'm more resting back with a sense of receiving and being open. It's more of a receptive kind of more open awareness. So that can be actually concentrating, but probably for, I would say, the majority of people, I'm saying it, but your whole practice is great. From the concentration angle, probably don't get as concentrated than if you can use an object. You have to see, I don't want to say categorically for everyone. By the way, if you're one of those people, this is a whole nother thing, you can experiment with in open awareness. You keep that, and you can still let arise a focus of the breath, actually an open awareness, and get kind of the best of both. That's another way. So anyway, so you have to find your way. Yes, please.
For your day-to-day practice, do you have like?
Oh, yeah, they're going to bring a mic. That'll help people here and help the people
Someone's
on.
gonna talk louder, but-
Oh, yeah, but for the Zoom people, but the Zoom people can hear you.
Sure. For your daily practice, do you have like a morning and an evening practice? Do you have like just a morning practice? Like, how do you?
You asking me personally?
Yeah.
Or what one would do? What
Either. You can answer both questions.
Right. So that's also highly individual. So for some people, they actually, it works for them to have more set time. Like I know people who like, I'm not that much of a morning person, but some of you who are like to get up earlier before you start the day and really, and they find once the day gets going, it's harder. Others, maybe during the day, maybe in the evenings works better. Some people do, you know, I know it can be hard to, but can do multiple times a day. So it just depends on what works. There's no right or wrong. Most of us, probably with experience, will find that there are certain times a day that do tend to be better, where our mind's clearer. So if you're fortunate enough to have the option, then you could choose to do one of those times you kind of learn. So that's one way to do it. So you just have to kind of find your way. For my own practice, this is just another rarity. I'm kind of dipping in and out through the day. Sometimes I do sit. I'll do longer chunks depending on the day, definitely. But also sometimes I'm sitting and I'll just for 5 minutes just dip in and out. Little dips through the day, kind of like that, longer, shorter. So I just have a mix of all of these. It seems to work for me. Actually, you can even, here's an experiment. I was watching with my family, watching a movie. We're all sitting there. I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm just show you, you can meditate in anything. We're watching the movie. And so while I'm sitting there, the movie's going on, and I just closed my eyes. I thought, oh, I'm going to meditate. I don't know why. I just did. And all of a sudden I'm meditating. I thought, well, this is odd. This is working. Part of my mind that gets bored and restless, it's happy watching the movie. I'm not making a joke. It's like it can be happy, watch the movie. And what is it, like two minds? This other part of my mind, I'm having a good sit. So it gets weird. So you can just find any time in a movie, as you walk around, carve out times as you move about in your daily life, and there's other things coming. And so you find your own way. Probably for most people, if you can find a time to carve out and make a special time and everything, probably that's supportive for most people. And is that okay? Yeah, yeah. By the way, it reminds me, this came up in some of the sits, and I really meant to say this. For all of you who, I know a lot of people tend to judge themselves by not only how concentrated or not, but even the fact that I've been through it myself, suffer a lot because it's just hard to have a daily practice. So, and I didn't realize most people don't know this. Most people do not have a daily meditation practice. Most people in this room don't have a daily. I'm just telling you, I know that. If any of you are in the teacher role or ever end up in the teacher role, that's one of the things, you get to talk to so many people. So you're not doing anything wrong. And please don't beat yourself up. It's hard. Come on, right? Because things just pull us. Matter of fact, just a quick story. I'm sorry, were you done? Is that enough there? Yeah. Yeah. So quick story. This is my favorite all-time story. I used to do a lot of prison Dharma work, and I was a volunteer. I didn't get paid, but I was a Buddhist chaplain. I started some prison programs and different. It's been a long time. So there's this one prison in California, Salinas Valley State Prison. It's like what they call level 4. It's like really super bad. And there would be these violent incidents that would happen, you know, some gangs would fight or whatever. And then when that happened, they'd have a lockdown for a few days, or it could be a month even, or whatever, till they get it all settled out and whatever. So we had a weekly group. They had something happened. There's a lockdown for a month, couldn't run the group. And when we came back, I could still go in and visit, go around to the cells, and some guys were doing okay, some guys having a hard time. So at the end, we came back, could run our group again after a month, and I check in. How are you doing? I know it's been rough, whatever. How's your meditation? One guy said, I don't know, I just couldn't find the time to meditate. He'd been locked in his cell 24/7. They feed you in the cell. I mean, I think they take you out once or twice a week to shower and everything. And I love that story. It's just like, it's not my fault. There's something about human, like, what has he got to do in there? And he was into it. So it just goes to show that but that can help us because we recognize, oh, these pulls in the world are real. It can be hard. That can help us say, oh, so, okay, is there something I might want to do that might support me now? Get to online meditations that happen. You find out they're every day at different times around the world going on. Have a meditation buddy that we Zoom together, anything to help because it can be hard. And you just do the best you can. That's one of the reasons people come on retreats, because it helps us to have a specialized environment. So, yeah. Okay. Maybe that's enough, yeah. So let me just give a couple of so there's the sit this morning from 11 to 11:45. There'll be someone who leads the sit and rings the bell to end. And then there's the 15 minutes between 11:45 and noon, just before lunch. And it says on the schedule, there might be a little talk or something, but I have a practice meeting with someone then, so I'm not going to come. So when the bell rings at 11:45 to end, you're on your own to have that time for 15 minutes. You might want to sit longer, walk, or just use the time as you choose. Do you have no announcements? So I just had one announcement. Back on the tables back there, I put out my own sign-up sheet if anyone's interested. It'll just stay out until the end of the retreat tomorrow. If you're interested to find out about, what I do lead a certain number of retreats each year. And if you're interested to find out about them, more of them, you could put your name on there if you want. It's just there over there. All right. So, doing your best with continuity without stressing out, ease, and oh, wait, I forgot, most important thing of all. There may be times, if you know about somatic psychotherapy kind of stuff, especially like in like a Peter Levine somatic experiencing world, they have this thing called resourcing. Some of you will know what that means. It might help you sometimes if you need it to just take a little break, go outside. It looks like a nice day. There's trees, there's the sky, whatever works for you, and just purposely let the goodness and the good feeling, the beauty of a tree or the sky, or just feel the air come into you. And sometimes that can be very nurturing, nourishing, or rejuvenating. And that thing about resourcing ourselves can be very, very important if it's getting grim and you're just feeling, I'm just not going to make it. I can't sit one more. If I have to walk one more, take a break and go and just let your mind expand even a few minutes and just see if that helps you. And then when you're ready, come back. And that can sometimes give us the resources to help the continuity better. So just a little. Okay. So I hope you enjoy your day of practice. Thank you.